I just like the fact that this conversation really started off one way, and it started off with the question that Adrienne posed about like being hidden, or like the statement that she posed about being hidden and having all of these things in order. But we really just like segued into like so many different conversations, but kind of to Adrienne's point, like, and Jackie's point, it's a needed conversation. And so as we're talking about just dating and relationships and how it looks for Christian women, I'm curious to know from a Christian woman's perspective if you feel like men pursue anymore, and why or why not. And I want to have this conversation because I know we live in a new age where we're seeing a lot of women empowerment, which is great. I feel like I am a womanist, so I stand with women. But we're seeing a lot of women taking that role of a man when it comes to pursuing and shooting a shot. And I know this can be such a controversial topic because some men are like, even Christian men, like, I don't have a problem with women shooting their shot, but some women are like, I'm not doing that, I'm traditional. And even shooting your shot could look different for everybody. Some people have different definitions, but I'm curious to know if you feel like men pursue anymore, or is it like a lot of women becoming real bold and they sliding in DMs and having to do more work than men?
Mm.
I heard that groan. That groan was like that. That's personal.
And for me personally, I feel like when a man wants a woman or is truly interested in a woman, nothing is going to stop him from pursuing that woman. I used to think, oh, maybe maybe they're not pursuing anymore. But I've watched men be one way with one woman and another way with another woman. That second woman, he knew, okay, I'm not playing with her. This is someone I really want to get to know. I really want to pursue. And his actions and his words changed. And so me personally, I think that men are still pursuing. It might not be at the rate we want as women would like to see, but I truly believe when a man would like to pursue a woman or wants to pursue a woman, there's nothing, whether it be finances, mental health, I feel like nothing will stop that man from pursuing that woman.
Oh, let's open that door. Let's unpack this, because you said basically like men are hunters, and if they want it, they're gonna go get it. And finances, mental health, all of these things will not get in the way. But I oftentimes hear men stand behind, I don't want to say those excuses because those are really big and important things for all of us, but I hear a lot of times men stand behind that and maybe use that as an excuse, as a barricade with getting to that woman, because they're like, oh, my finances are not in order and I can't do this yet. And that might be fear, because you don't even know if this woman is going to even help you build. Like, maybe she is going to be the gateway to get your finances together. Like, you really don't know that. But I hear men say that too. And so, I don't know. I feel like this conversation could you just opened up a box. But I'll give Jackie a chance to speak if you want to speak on that too, if you feel like men pursue anymore.
Man, I love what Adrienne was saying, just as far as like, if a man wants you, like, he's gonna go for it, and where he'll act different with depending on the woman he's with. I think that, oh man, what direction do I want to come at this from? So my thing is, because you asked like, do men still pursue? And about like women pursuing. I think that we're seeing more of a mixture of both. But even if a woman has started off pursuing, I think like depending on the dynamic of the relationship, that the man might take over, and he's kind of showing some kind of reciprocity as well in the because that, like, relationships can't truly function if both people aren't showing interest. And so from the standpoint though of like men pursuing though, I think that at this point sometimes you gotta switch things up a little bit. And everybody might not agree with me, but I think that what I kind of tested sometimes is just in a way, you know, people are like, oh, you got to put yourself out there. I didn't really know what that means, and sometimes I still don't, and I don't think you have to do it. But if you want to, girl, go for it. Because there are, I think, cute, simple ways you can do this. Like right now, I feel like even if we're using social media and stuff, you can just reply to something they've posted, see if some kind of interaction starts, how engaged they are. I think a lot of times what's interesting with women saying, oh, men don't pursue, is that there's this, I'm about to say something I shouldn't say. I think that one thing, this isn't always it, but one thing that sometimes happens is a man isn't giving you the interest he wants because he's not interested in you. And we don't want to take that for what it is. We don't like to admit that to ourselves, right? And so I think that men pursue the women they want to, just like we say yes and no to the men we want to say yes and no to. And so for me, I've learned now, if I've shown any level of interest, and not to say that I'm showing that much, but enough where you can reciprocate in some kind of way, and it's falling flat, then I'm like, okay, let me pack my bags. Not literally, but let me just move around. And I think that everyone is doing that to some level, but we as women sometimes say in our feelings a little bit more about it. Like, why didn't he? And we again might be like, oh, he must be gay, or oh, he must be shy, or oh, he's not man enough. That's why he's not stepping up. And like, maybe those things happen. I'm not saying that they don't, because sometimes I do think that men kind of slack off a little bit. But I think on some sides of that, it can be they're just not that interested. Because if he really is, kind of like we said before, then he's gonna look, his finances aren't in order, he's gonna start hustling more, because he knows, like, I need my account to be where I need to be for me to be with this woman, or whatever the thing is. Like, and I don't think men are necessarily doing it for us, I'm not saying that, but because they want to put themselves in the position, right? Just like any person, if you really want something, you're going to put yourself in the position to get it. If you want that job, you're going to put yourself in the position to get it. If you want a raise, you're going to put yourself, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to get fit and you serious, you're going to put yourself in the position to get that. So the same thing goes for dating. And I know that is not what most women want to hear probably, but since he may not be that interested, and you just need to move around.
Thank you for pushing this narrative. I like the fact that you came from this angle, because a lot of women might have this idea or this excuse of maybe he's shy, maybe so I'm going to take the lead on this, when it's like, no, he really didn't like you. And so now you're looking, I don't want to, goofy, maybe, depending on how hard you was like, really trying to pursue this man. So now you're looking goofy, or your feelings are hurt because you imagined all of these things and you created this false narrative because you really wanted this man, and this man is just like, I gave no kind of signals that I even, like, no hints that I even liked you. Like, I responded to your DM and I didn't keep the conversation going. Like, but women feel like, oh, maybe I'm going to pick the slack up. I'm going to pick it up because maybe he's shy, so I'm going to approach, or maybe his finances are not together. So I don't know if I sound like I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just asking questions and kind of just gauging everyone's, where you are with that. But yeah, I like the fact that you push that narrative. Maybe he's not interested, because the man who wants you, nothing is going to get in the way of it. And I like the fact that you brought up, like, if he wants this job, he's going to level his finances up. If he wants this raise, he's going to do all of these things. And so it should be the same with the woman that he's interested in. So, yeah.
Thank God for a mute button, because I'm over here like, yes. Becky, she hit it right on the nail. I was hoping one of y'all said it, and she said that. Like, and Vaughn, even what you were saying, I feel like with the fantasies that we create in our head, we want it to work so bad that even if this man is showing he's not interested, we're trying to push this narrative because of all what's in our heads. So I completely agree.
So many things. We take so many things wrong. Like, he could like a picture and we'd be like, oh my gosh, see, look, babe, like the picture today. And it's just like, he just double tapped. Like, you be double tapping on everybody's pictures too, right? Then that don't mean you like them. So yeah. But let's kind of speak to, I heard you say finances, mental health, and all of these things. Both of you all said those things. But I guess even though some of those things are really serious and some people really do feel like that is why they haven't pursued a woman, because they really wanted to get those things together. I feel like I don't really know what my question is, but I guess I just want to speak because I don't want like a man to look at this and be like, but I really am trying to like focus on this area of my life, and that doesn't mean that I'm like afraid of a relationship. I really do just want to like focus on that. So I guess like, is there another, maybe I should have a man on this.
I could think I get what you're trying to say. And I forgot to hit on that. I was thinking about it when you talked about it earlier. But I think that sometimes we try to like kind of box people in a sense of like, oh, men do, or like most men are like this or whatever it is. And I think that everyone has their thing, right? So some men may truly be like, I'm focused on this. And so even if he had things together, he would be interested in you. It still goes back to right now, he's not for whatever the reason. And I think that we as women, like, maybe just people in general, but I hear this more from women just because I talk to women all the time. Like, we like to know why, right? Like, we want to understand, why aren't you interested? And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If we're being honest, like, if he's not interested, like, just move on. Like, you know, it would be much easier if we didn't wait to like try to understand, because I think sometimes our feelings don't go away until we get some kind of understanding. That's even right. If we've made it up for ourselves, right? Like, we're like, oh, okay, it was because of this. All right, now I can move on. And it's like, you don't even know if that was really right, but you like kind of grab onto something because that's, I think, a lot of times part of our process. But yeah, I do think those are valid things, because I do know some men that like, if a woman, I was talking to one of my guy friends, he's like, fitness is important to me and it's important for my woman to like work out. And I was like, hey, if that's what you want, like, I'm not going to tell you no, you know? Or it's like, oh, I need my finances to be this. And so there's like focus in on that. And so I do think that there is some real truth to those things. But if you're interested in a guy that's in that, and he's, I mean, because some men will even admit, like, hey, yeah, I'm focused on this. And we're like, okay. And we're still like, okay, so you're going to date me? And it's like, did you hear him, sis? But did you hear him? And so sometimes we stick around and see if that changes.
Yeah. I'm loving it. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, I think like, I mean, and we're all people, so like things can change, but do you want to wait to see that? And I think in general, like, even on the flip side of that, sometimes we as women want certain things. And we say like, oh, I'm not going to date someone unless this, that, and the other. But we tend to kind of waver a little bit more on stuff. And so then we sometimes on the flip side of that end up upset because it's like, oh, dang, like, I really wanted this and I kind of gave in, and then you didn't change how I wanted you to, or like, now I'm not in the place I want to be, and you almost like resent someone. But that's a whole nother story. I just think that we sometimes like try to box people in and make assumptions about things, and people are people. Like, we're all like figuring out what we want, and we're going through this and that. And so I think just meeting people where they are, and if they've told you something or they're giving you some kind of level of like the vibes just aren't there, then you just have to accept that for what it is. And you can decide if you want to stay and like still try to get to know them, but it's on you at that point. Like, because we all have freedoms in these relationships. And I think like, I say all that because I hope people are encouraged, like, use your freedom. Like, you can decide if you want to wait to see if this man's finances get to where he wants them to be, or or if he's ready for something serious. Because some guys are like, I don't want anything serious right now. And you're like, well, I'm just wanting to get to know people too. And you lying. You're not just trying to get to know people. So I think you just have to be honest with yourself. And yeah, that's all I got to say on that, though.
I have so much to say to all of that, and I feel like I can't even hit on everything, but I like the fact that you said that women need closure, because I feel like, or they want closure. I feel like that is something that women seek. Like, they always want to know why. So I like the fact that you said that, because most men, they don't ask those questions. They just kind of roll with the punches, like, oh, okay, like shorty slid, so I'm gonna slide too. But when a man slide, we'd be like, but what did I do? Was it me? Was it you? Was it somebody else? Like, we want to have all of these answers, questions answered. So I like the fact that you hit on that. But I also like the fact that you put the ball back in the woman's court and said that we have some of these freedoms that I think we forget that we have. Like, I feel like sometimes we can give so much power to a man in a relationship, and we're waiting for him to like break it off or whatever. It's like, we can leave too. Like, we don't have to wait for him to walk away. Like, if it's not serving us, like, we too have that freedom and liberty to be like, okay, this is not really serving me. So instead of waiting for him to like make the moves, I'm gonna just say, like, I'm gonna back up. Like, we have those freedom. I don't know if that's where you were going with it. That's kind of how my mind interpreted it. Like, we have the liberty to also like make the decisions for ourselves in our life and not wait around for this man to like either get it together. We could say he does not have it together, so I'm stepping, instead of saying, okay, maybe his finances would be better in a few months, maybe, and then a few months turn into a few years. It's like, no, we could walk away too. So I'm gonna say that, and I'm finished.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all. And first of all, mental health is important. I don't want nobody to see this and be like, okay, she tricked me. No, if you need to go to therapy, of course. But I think sometimes we let, there's so much I have to say. Sometimes we let things slide if we like the idea of that person or we like that person. We're more bound to let certain things slide. And we have to be real with ourselves. Okay, if you know communication is your top 3 and you told that person that and they're not respecting that and they're not changing how you want them to change, it's not going to change. Like, how you are single is most likely how you're going to be married. And so that's one thing. Another thing about the pursuing, if we're being honest, people are not going to agree with this, they're not going to like this. But I think men are pursuing, but the ones that we like are not the ones pursuing. Because again, this all goes back to Tyrone at the gas station. Tyrone gonna pursue you at that pump, when you're walking out the door. But the men that we want are the ones that aren't pursuing. And I heard this, and at first when I heard it, I was like, I ain't trying to hear that. Like, I'm not trying to hear that. But when I really sat and was like, okay, thinking about it, it was true. The men that I wanted were not the ones pursuing, but the ones who we don't are the ones actually pursuing. So, and I have one more thing. I think that we all have to get rid of this ready narrative. I don't think we're ever fully going to be ready, if that makes sense. Not all things are going to be in order, not in order, but everything's not going to be perfect. And I just don't feel like there's ever going to be a ready. And so to me, that takes off some pressure. Like, you don't have to be a certain way in order for that person, to pursue you or to start getting serious with someone. And that's something that I had to learn. I used to think I had to be this way. This had to be like this. And it just freed me to know that I don't have to be ready. I don't think I'm ever going to be ready. So yeah, that's it.
Yes. Okay. Can I say something really quick, Vaughn? Because you hit on a couple of things that I was like, oh my gosh, so true. Like, especially with the being ready part. But then also like admitting to ourselves, like, sometimes it's the people who are pursuing us, we just don't want them. And I have to hit on this because I know some people are like, oh, there's almost like this really thin line between people being like, okay, you're just too picky, right? Like your standards are too high. But then also like knowing when you might just be settling. And so I just want to even point out, like, when I was talking about the freedoms thing, I'm not even just saying like, dip out on people just for any reason, because I do think there's like levels of grace when you're like interacting with people and getting to know people. But if we're being honest, like there's so much to consider, like when you're getting to know people, even like when you're making friends. Or like if we're being honest, it's like you don't just click with everyone you meet. And we're usually less hurt about it when like, oh, okay, like we were kind of like kicking in some, but then, you know, we just weren't on the same kind of wavelength. And I think in some ways we can take that and think about it when it comes to relationships too. Like, okay, like there are these things where we just may not connect, and like, yeah, there's some grace, but you don't have to like just throw all the grace in there and be like, okay, I'm just gonna accept whatever is thrown at me. Like, okay, Tyrone at the gas station, he said he's homeless, but you know, it's cool. We can live under the bridge together. You know what I mean? So I think there's like this very thin line though between like wanting to get to know people and showing grace, and because you're going to need grace too, right? But then also knowing like when you might be settling, or when things aren't actually, there's really not mutual interest. So I did want to point that out when I was talking about freedoms, like, and then also just based on what you said, because I do think that that's where discernment comes in too, right? Like really being able to discern, do I have a place in this person's life, and do they have a place in mine? But then also on the being ready part, it's so funny because even when we were talking about being hidden, that's almost what they're trying to say to us. What sometimes that's what it feels like, is like your God is hiding you because you're not ready. And so, and that might not always be the case though, because only God really knows what he wants to do in any of our lives, right? And so yeah, I just wanted to say that. I just love that you hit on that because it's so true.
I think that was like a really perfect ending, and I like, and I appreciate the fact that you tied the hidden message back into it, because I know that's how we originally started. And so I think that is so true. I feel like sometimes it can be complex, but sometimes we make it a little more difficult than it should be. And so having to find this whole balance, and also understanding who God is and his character and really what he has for you in this season, and not feeling discouraged. But also not subscribing to these fake like prophets who want to sell books and, you know, have all these million views on YouTube, because that's really kind of where some of this stuff stems from. But I really did enjoy this conversation. Like, honestly, if we were having like a real girl chat, like in person, we'll be talking all night, because this conversation could go in so many directions. But I'm so appreciative of y'all like sitting down and having this discussion with me, and just uncovering a lot of these things. And I hope and pray that the people that are watching this really receive this, and they are freed from the shackles of being hidden and all of these rules that people made up that's not even true. God was like, I didn't say none of that. So free yourself, like Fantasia said. But thank y'all for sitting down, and everybody else, people that's viewing this, like, subscribe, and follow us. So I'll let y'all drop your Instagram so y'all can go, you know, touch these beautiful women, like digitally touch, you know, not physically, but you know. So y'all can drop your IG, and then we'll just wrap it up.
You can follow me on IG at Just Me Adri. That's JUSTMEADRI_. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, thanks, Vaughn, for putting this together. This was fun. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Jack, JAC, and then 5 underscores. So yes, 5. Jack with 5 underscores.
She said, I did not know it was 5, but I'm gonna also put it in the description box so y'all can follow them. But stay tuned for the next little, you know, candid conversation. Thank you, ladies, for joining, and we will talk soon.